Hello, Granny Annie. Are you still here? Pageants. Yes, you're talking about the thumbnail. Let me just say real quick, I do have wax on my braces. I've had to get them adjusted a couple of times this week. And it's only Wednesday. So I think Monday and then today. Anyway, it's been a brutal week with the braces. So, yes, I do have wax on my teeth. I apologize for that. But the pageant thumbnail. So that is a photograph of Erica Franz at the time, Erica Kirk on the right in the blue dress. And then on the left is Lindsay Halligan, the attorney that Trump appointed to be the Eastern District of Virginia, which is essentially Washington, D.C. Granny Annie is here, worth every pain, those braces. My braces are like, they've already fixed everything. Like, I don't know why we need to keep them on, but I guess just for the assurance. Well, I guess your teeth can move back really easily. So yeah, they'll put the retainer on, but not for another year. So I still have braces for a year, but all those wires just like scraping on the inside, and they don't fix it unless you ask them to fix it, because they don't know what's bothering you unless you tell them. So anyway, enough about me. How are you doing, lady? What's up with you tonight? It is a Wednesday, the 29th of October. It's almost 9 o'clock on the Eastern Seaboard. I'm coming at you live from Ohio. I like to say Ohio, It's a cool place. I like to pretend that it's not, so that people don't think about moving here, because, I like crowd control. So when people are like, oh yeah, Ohio, yuck, I'm like, yeah, nothing to see over here, folks. You wouldn't want to waste your time with Ohio. It's just a boring little place. So, raised from perdition 2 times. Whoa! Let me see if I can tag you guys. Oh, look, I can. I can pin the messages. It wasn't letting me for a while. How are you, my dear? And Granny Annie says, when I had 3 teeth pulled as a 27-year-old, they almost made me not need them. Yeah. I was getting this big gap over here. I don't know if you guys ever noticed it. If you watch my older videos, and now you'll notice it. It was just like between, like not the middle, but like right next to the middle. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got to a point, my doctor was like, when did your tooth fall out? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, don't lie to me. I can see it right there. You're missing a tooth. I was like, no, it's just a gap that keeps getting bigger. And she was like, you got to get that fixed right away. And I don't think she was so much concerned about the look of it as she was about how it changes like your whole cranium, right? So, I've been battling the vertigo for the last year, and I just saw the physician today too, and I wanted to follow up with her about that, because I think it's resolved the vertigo stuff. I haven't had any vertigo issues since I've had the braces. I'm watching Netflix Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich while reading Jenna's book, The Vile Man Lying, and Clinton still saying, I never met with Jeffrey, when Jenna saw them on the island together. And there's a painting, a very famous painting of Billy, let's call him, that was in Epstein's house, of him wearing the blue dress that Monica saved as evidence of their screwing around. And he's wearing, I think, like red stiletto heels, and he's like lounging on a overstuffed chair. So yeah, I mean, they're good friends. We've seen photographs of them together, and he was probably on the plane more than anybody, it sounds like, and that's very fitting with what we know of him anyway. Quite the playa. Don't hate the playa, hate the game, right? No, it's gross. We don't see your teeth, just your set pups and face. Well, and I was thinking about not lighting up the chakra tower, just because, to simplify my set. But then I was like, oh, but I miss it. And I don't want to deprive me or you of having a balanced chakra. So let me step aside too, so that we can see it. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation with my people, opening up a discussion, hoping to learn something and be educational. And all of my videos are made for the tube of you, otherwise known as YouTube. And it really is. It's the tube of you. It's the tube of me. I mean, it's so much better than TV. Who watches TV anymore? Except Netflix. That Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich is a very good documentary. I watched it a few months ago, so it's not right on the top of my head. But Virginia's book, Nobody's Girl, is right on the top of my head because I carry it with me wherever I go, and I'm trying to power through the very last 100 pages. I think I'm down to like the last 90 pages, and it's just so good. And you know, there's a lot on YouTube about it, other people that have read it, and the family interviewing with journalists. Today I was watching Katie Couric interview with Virginia's older brother and his wife, and I thought it was really cute because Katie Couric said half brother, which I almost said too, and he was like, yeah, well, you know, that's not really how we think or how we talk. Sky, who's his stepdad, who's Virginia's biological dad, and Sky D's biological dad. Sky married, is it Daniel? Is that the name of the older brother? Virginia's older brother, who's 5 years older. The dad, Sky, married him when Virginia's older brother was just 1 year old. So he doesn't remember not having the stepdad as his dad. And then I think he was probably 4 years old, maybe 5 years old when Virginia was born. So a lot of people don't have much memory before that age. So essentially he was saying, she's been around me my whole life. I've been around her whole life, and she's my sister, you know? So then the younger brother is the same mom and dad. Anyway, the older brother was saying he was oblivious to the Rex abuse going on growing up, and how it infuriated him and it embarrassed him. It made him ashamed, you know, being the oldest brother, kind of being the young man of the house. He feels like a failure, and that's so sad. I could almost cry for him. But oh, there's just so much there. My last video, the day before yesterday, sorry I missed yesterday, and got barking dogs outside, derailing my brain. I think it was in my last video where I was saying that I was suspicious that maybe money had changed hands with Virginia's father, her biological father, Sky, and maybe with little E, maybe with little T, maybe with that Ron Eppinger. And then right after I did my live stream, I read the part of the book that said where she found out. She found out, like, I think in her 30s, because she wrote this book when she was probably 37, and she had just found out, I think, not long before. I'll have to reread that part. And I don't have the book in the room with me right now because I left it in the car and it's raining outside and it's cold out. So maybe somebody will bring it in for me. If they do, I'll let you know. Where's my phone? I can text. Help! Where'd my phone go? There's just too many things to keep track of. Let's see. Candace Owens just accused Tenacious D of covering up the real assassin of her friend Charlie Kirk. Yeah. Oh my God. Who was it who sent me this craziest video I've ever seen in my life that's about all of that? And it like wrecked my brain. It melted it. I was just like, oh dear Lord, this is why I try to be very selective about the videos that I watch. But I do like to watch the videos that you guys recommend. So somebody emailed me this a few days ago, and I just watched it this morning. And like I said, it completely melted my brain. And I'll go to the video for a second. I'll link it up in the description, but I don't think I want to play any of it because I don't want to be responsible for melting your brains. The channel, have you heard of this? It's called Art of Kicks, and then has a Z at the end. So the name of the channel, he's got over 1 million subs, but I'm just wondering if he's just out there for the sake of being out there. ARTOFKICKS-Z. And I said CKS, but no S. KICKZ is the end of it. And it's titled, how old is it? It's 2 months ago. It's gotten over 1 million views. It's titled, This Conspiracy Theory Will Change How You See Everything. And it's a lot about Charlie Kirk, but it's a lot about everything else too. And it was just like completely melting my brain. And I don't know what to think. I'm curious what you guys think. And if the viewer was here, I could ask her directly, but she's not here. So I don't want to like call her out for sending me a crazy video when she's not here. But hold on, let me turn on a fan. It's kind of warm. It gets kind of warm when I start talking because I'm like all excited. And then what did I do? I just, what happened? Oh, I know what happened. This happened. My cord over here, it's so sensitive. And so I think it like turned out that light, and now it was almost better without it though, wasn't it? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I'll leave it on. I'm going to stay caught up with you. I was grabbing my phone to see if somebody was going to be willing to bring me the book. And then I got all distracted with 12 other things. One sec. Why is every little thing so hard, right? Every little thing is just so challenging. That's why it's so important to like streamline and to not let things distract you. And to not let things fall. Gravity sucks, right? Okay, and Dershowitz denying his relations with Jenna. Scum. Yeah, Dershowitz is a huge scumbag, and I hope that he has to pay the price. The problem with him is that he's an attorney, so not only was he involved in all this stuff, and not just an attorney, but a Harvard professor, I think of like 30 years attorney. And I want to say he might have represented little e at some point. He might have represented little t at some point. We know that, didn't he consult on the dream team for Simpson? He's done a lot of salacious things. Like, I think he defended a doctor who was accused of unaliving or attempting to unalive his wife, and Dershowitz was able to get him off scot-free. I can't remember if the guy's wife passed away or not. And I think that that's the case he's the most famous for. Let me see. Alan Dershowitz, most famous case. Okay, it says he's most famous for being part of the Dream Team and appellate advisor. However, his earlier case for Klaus von Bülow is often cited as a career highlight. In the early 80s, Dershowitz helped overturn the conviction of Klaus von Bülow, a Danish-British socialite found guilty of attempting to red rum his wife, Sunny, with insulin injections. Dershowitz represented von Bülow for his appeal in 82. He and his team of law students argued that Sunny's coma was not proven to have been caused by foul play. The conviction was overturned in 84, and von Bülow was acquitted in a retrial. Dershowitz's famous book, about the case, Reversal of Fortune Inside the Von Bulow Case, 1985, was later adapted into an Academy Award winning film in 1990, further boasting his public profile. And he's so butt ugly as hell, if you don't mind my saying. And then it's got like 6 of his biggest career highlights. I bet the ones that I just mentioned. Let's see, 6 of his career highlights: Simpsons, Tenacious D, Little E, and Harvey Weinstein. That's the other one. And was Harvard Law's youngest full professor at 28. So yeah, Weinstein. How could I forget? He's been called the devil's advocate. So if he was Harvard's youngest professor at 28 and he's like, is he like 85 now? Maybe 86, and he still is a professor there sometimes. So he's been a professor there for over 50 years. That's crazy. Just catch up with you guys. I don't like it when I fall behind on the chat. My late friend was a senator during Clinton days. He says way more bodies than we can imagine. And so I mentioned this just the other day, Granny Annie, is that the story is that Monica saved that blue dress not because she was in love with him and obsessed with him and wanted his DNA, but because she was afraid that she would disappear. And so she wanted there to be an evidence trail. Because, yeah, apparently, I don't know if that's what you meant about the bodies, but in the very literal sense that's often what happens. Like, think of Chandra Levy and whatever that dork was named, Gary Condit, right? So I was saying, just like last week, I had this crazy conspiracy theory that the government was in on 9/11 to cover up the fact, not that Condit was having an affair with Levy, but to try to cover up the fact that she was offed as a result of, and that happens so often. And that not only, it's not so much that they wanted to protect him, is that they want to protect the whole scandalous lifestyle that they all lead. And I feel like that's what all this stuff with Virginia Giuffre is tapping into also. I mean, she's passed away, unfortunately. It's about her. It's a very personal story about her, but it's more about the bigger picture of how there's a lot of people like her that know too much and then they disappear. And I don't mind being labeled a conspiracy theorist in my conviction that I think she was offed because of the book that she wrote. I mean, she'd had her life threatened. They all have had their lives threatened. They've all been stalked and harassed. And, the FBI got a hold of her once and said that she was in danger and that she needed to make herself scarce. So, your late friend was a senator during Clinton days. I don't know that I've ever known anyone that's been part of the government. I mean, I've known a lot of people that have worked in DC and worked with the government and around the government. I don't think I've known anybody who's actually been part of the government. I mean, you can kind of say cops are part of the government, right? And I know somebody who's a cop. I don't know him very well. We've only been married for like 33 years or something. He's almost a total stranger. Okay, I rejected my 13-year-old brother. Never imagined he would turn to a 5-year-old little sister. Oh, Granny Annie, I am so devastated for you. Again, I could just cry reading that, and I'm so glad that I didn't fall too far behind, but now it doesn't want to let me pin that. It's about to let me, and then it like starts flashing. Come on, pin that message. I am so sorry. I rejected my 12 to 13-year-old brother. Never imagined he would turned to a 5-year-old little sister. Sis now says, you were in full view when brother was abusing me for Oreos. Oh, and my puppies are pushing the door open. Hold on. I'm confused about the 4 Oreos. Like, she was getting abused in exchange for Oreos, if you want to clarify. Just like the video of Charlie Kirk passed 6 days before. I sent it to you. Yes, I know. I watched that, and I don't know what to think of that, Granny Annie. I honestly don't know what to think of that. Some wild stuff. Same with the Snake Eyes movie from 1998. I mean, what do they call that? Predictive programming. We know that that happens, where people put films together and then they do what was in the film many years later. I can corroborate the father was paid by little E for Jenna. Just read it this morning. Yeah, I think it's not until like the last 2/3 of the book, maybe 3/4 of the way in. And yeah, it kind of stunned me that she waited that long before sharing it, but maybe just to give the reader a sense of kind of getting the rug pulled out from underneath you, that you think you're learning all this stuff. Like, she in her life thought she was suffering all this abuse that she was suffering. And then she found that out, I think, like I said, just a few years before she started writing the book. So like in her 30s. And so here we are, like getting close to the last quarter of the book. And then all of a sudden we find that out. I had kind of been suspicious of that before reading the book. And then once I started reading the book, I was like certain. I just thought maybe she didn't know. But I was like, obviously these people communicated. It's just a little too seamless how it all fits together. The thing with Ron Eppinger is that he started abusing her, I think, when she was 14. I think he held her captive for 6 months. And then I think he gave her to a friend. And then I can't remember how she ended up back at home after that. It might have been a real roundabout way, because there was like a rehab center. There was hitchhiking in and around San Francisco. She stayed with an aunt, Sky's sister. And there was just being on the run. So, you know, she was constantly trying to get away from people that were abusing her, only to run into the arms of more abuse from other people. So when she moved back in with her parents after a major cycle like that, and after Ron Eppinger pimping her out basically when she was 14, she really tried to make it work with her parents. And her father had already had the job at Mar-a-Lago. And then, you know, they're really, really sketchy about how old she was when she started at Mar-a-Lago. Just like Erica, Charlie, and Tenacious D are all really sketchy about who the mystery friend is that introduced Erica and Charlie. I think it's safe to assume that it's Tenacious D himself, because otherwise, why wouldn't they just say? And we know that he knew them both. He knew both of their parents, definitely he knew Charlie's parents before Charlie was born. Charlie's father worked for Trump as an architect, maybe an engineer, but definitely an architect, maybe an architectural engineer. Anyway, Erica's father worked on that Iron Dome thing. And you know that Dear Leader was talking about the Golden Globe a while ago, or I'm sorry, Dome, the Golden Dome, you know, which is, I think, just metaphorical. I mean, I don't think there's an actual Iron Dome or an actual Golden Dome. It's a system of probably like lasers and satellites that shoot down drones and enemy fire. But Erica's father worked on the Iron Dome. I think that was back in the 80s, and that was for Israel. So there's all these Israel ties. Anyway, let me stay caught up with you and quit biting my tongue because that's so painful. Yeah, and yeah, all this stuff with Charlie Kirk and Erica craziness, that Lyman, who's the Lyman guy that we were talking about so much a couple days ago? I want to say Tom, but that's not right. It's so annoying when my brain can't come up with things. Phil Lyman. See, I didn't even see it in here, but once I start jogging the brain by touching the pages, just like how that works when I pick up my phone. So I just have to keep my book and my phone handy so that they can activate my brain. And it's much harder to activate the brain this late in the day. Anyway, Phil Lyman was convicted of a weird crime in 2014. A lot of people don't know that he was pardoned by Tenacious D in 2020. And there's just a weird history there. Phil Lyman. He has everything to do with it, as does the country that the Iron Dome was created for, as does the country that the leader was talking about, the Golden Dome. I think those three people are like the trifecta of taking Charlie out because he wanted those damn Epstein files released. And I'm sure there's other reasons too. Like he was questioning that country that starts with the letter I, that had the Iron Dome, with the Prime Minister Bibi Benjamin. Yeah, and he's a bad guy. He's a bad hombre. Bad hombre. Thank you guys so much for being here. And did I ask you to make sure you're still subscribed? If you are subscribed, share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Make sure your notification bell is on if you want to be notified when I come on. And please hit that like button. I tell you, it's crazy how often I don't hit the like button until people in the video remind me to hit it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, how come I haven't done that yet? Annie, I know you said you hit like at the beginning of the video just so that you know that you already hit it, and you know it tells you if you've watched it before. Anyway, let me power through your comments to get caught up since I'm falling so far behind. And yeah, that is, I love the way that was all one word. It is not letting me highlight it. Come on. Silly thing. Pin message. Okay. Deshawn's on the case for E that Acosta made go away. Deshawn. I know that name, but I'm not super familiar. Is that a content creator? On the case for little E that Acosta made go away. Yeah, everybody needs to be all over Acosta. Katie Fang just put out a video today. She got a hold of Acosta's deposition from last month. And I'm just like, damn, I want to read that deposition. But I will link in the description Katie Fang's video that she dropped today about Alex Acosta's deposition from last month that talks about all that crap from the sweetheart deal, the crime of the century. Yes, Von Boulots, there's a movie, autocorrect Dershowitz, Deshawn. Okay, Deshawn is on the case that Acosta made go away. Thank you, Raised from Perdition. You are correct. So I really appreciate you guys and your comments because you help keep me on track and you fill me in on things that I forget or that I'm not aware of, and it's priceless. Let's see. Sheldon Songstead, LOL. He sent me some naughty email, and I guess it got me on a watch list. Who is that? I know the name, Sheldon Songstead. I'm so sorry, Granny. Family can be monsters. Yeah, that sucks, man. And then the guilt, that you didn't protect your sister, when that's not your job, that's your parents' job. But if they were negligent, which I'm imagining they are, in order for all that to happen, then it's hard to realize that it was their job to keep all of you safe. Raised male urge. Oh, raised. You're tagging raised from perdition. Male urges are real. I threw up for days after sis told me in 1996. Such a good point. Yeah. Men can have a much harder time controlling their sexuality. And obviously it's no excuse. No excuse at all. But I think also just like there's that whole like addiction to gratification. I think the addiction is so severe. And I think that a lot of people have that addiction. And I think that that's a lot of what we're looking at with the Trumpstein files is addiction. And for any addiction, one is too many, 1,000 is never enough. And then, have them surrounded by young models and pageant contestants, and it's over. It's like completely, it's just like, pardon the expression, but it's just like a feeding frenzy. It's absolutely disgusting. And the throwing up days after your sis told you. Yeah. Jenna, Virginia Gouffre, writes about how grueling a deposition is. And I can tell you guys, I've been deposed. For anyone who hasn't been deposed and doesn't really know what that is, it's court testimony that just happens in a room. There's a transcriber. It's usually being videotaped and audio taped. And a witness is being grilled by an attorney, and the witness has their attorney there. So it's sort of like a precursor to providing the testimony on the witness stand, so that it's part of discovery, so that people know what it is that they're up against and what they're dealing with. And it's very stressful, even for them just to ask you your name starting out. I mean, you're just, just like you're under a lot of pressure. And then if there's suspicion around you or shame around you, it's very hard. And Virginia describes that in one of her depositions about all the abuse, it was so horrible that afterwards she went and threw up in the bathroom. And I can imagine how that is. Like you said, Annie, I sometimes have that kind of stress response too, to throw up. And know all too well from my own father and many more, my brother victim too. So disgusting. And a lot of times the people who victimized have been victimized are trauma survivors. I think for people coming back from war, like all the Vietnam vets, I think that was one of the many atrocities that was part of the fallout of trying to reintegrate into their lives unsuccessfully, and then abusing women and children. And my brother was victim, not brother. Autocorrect on me tonight. My brother was victim, not brother on me. Okay, thank you for clarifying. It happens too much. I wish we had better ways to end the cycles. And what's so crazy is the statute of limitations on seeking justice, because average age for somebody who was abused as a child, this is what it says in Virginia's book anyway, average age that somebody tries to get justice is 40. I think that's what Virginia's therapist told her. And so in a lot of states, the statute of limitations is gone. So you can't do anything through the court system, but you can still confront your abuser. But those laws should change, in my opinion. DIY Drea, hello, liked and subbed. Hey, Jazz. Senator Sonstad, they were going to take out Canadian Prime Minister a few years back. Oh my God, did you see Tenacious D in Japan? I think it was yesterday. I know I saw it yesterday, where he's like wandering around the room with the Japanese Prime Minister, and they're supposed to be like saluting the military, the soldiers, and he's just like all confused, like meandering, and the Prime Minister is trying to like put him on a leash and get him on track. And even some of the soldiers, I think, were like having to run interference and trying to help him figure out where he was supposed to stand, where he was supposed to walk. Like, he was really confused. It was pretty sad. But again, if you're not up for the job, I know it's a demanding job, then you're not up for the job. And it really seems to me like he flees the country when he thinks that the heat is on. Like, that's what he's, it's a good day to go to another country and do something else. That was nuts. If you haven't caught that, I'll put a video of it. I think there was like a Keith Edwards that I watched about it. There were a few different channels that have covered that. It was insanity. But it also reminded me of when Kristi Noem was on the stage with him during the during the rally, during his campaign, the night when he just listened to music for 45 minutes and didn't talk. But it started with her saying, when he was being all confused, and she was like, "Would you like us to play your favorite song, sir?" And he was like, "What?" And she's like, "Your song, the one you like to play at the end. Would you like us to put on your song?" And he was like, "Okay." And then they just stood around kind of swaying to the music and then doing the YMCA thing. And it was just like so painfully awkward. That's what it reminded me of yesterday with the Japanese Prime Minister. Big time. Okay. My SA brother was homeless, drunk for years, punished himself. Yeah. Again, the guilt and the shame. And see, that's what's so sad is that, yes, he should feel guilty and ashamed of himself, but your parents should have been there to prevent that from happening. It's the parents' responsibility to keep the kids safe. I mean, I know I've seen that in my professional work. I've seen that in real life. And it's always the kids that blame themselves. And the blame belongs to the parents. Like, that's what parenting is. It's keeping your kids safe and making sure that they don't screw up, because kids do screw up. That's what kids do. That's being a kid. And again, I'm not letting him off the hook. I mean, in some sense, I'm glad that he felt bad about it, but he should also recognize the neglect, at the very least, the neglect that he was a victim of, that allowed for that scenario to play itself out. I've been deposed. So stressful. Yeah. I've been deposed a few times. It's not fun. Like, it almost sounds like it would be fun because, it's like this structured conversation with a lot of purpose and meaning, but it's not fun. It's not fun at all. It's not even fun to like sit in somebody else's deposition when you're like, haha, MF, how's it feel? And you're happy that they're being deposed. It's grueling. I mean, they're usually like all day long. Like, they start at like 8 a.m. and they go to 10 p.m. sometimes. But again, depositions are stressful. And the Trump family was scheduled for those 3 depositions up until the day that Ivana fell down a flight of stairs suspiciously. Don Sr., Don Jr., and Ivanka were all scheduled for week-long depositions to start on July 15th of 2022, when Ivana allegedly fell down the stairs to her end on July 14th of 2022. And there were a lot of other people that passed away that year of 2022. Like, oh, I don't want to mention too many of them right now, but one key that I'd already mentioned just a few minutes ago is Jean-Luc Brunel. He was Epsteined in his jail cell in France, February of 2022. And I started to talk about how Virginia, I think, got handed from Ron Eppinger to possibly Mar-a-Lago. She wasn't the only person to get trafficked from Mar-a-Lago. That was a hunting ground. And I feel like it was a pipeline. I feel like it was a system. I feel like they were in cahoots. It was orchestrated. Again, people don't talk about it. People don't live to tell about it. They're too ashamed to tell about it. You know, if they have been married off like so many of them are, and then lived happily ever after, that's all part of the setup to keep them quiet. And, you know, they usually feel so much guilt and embarrassment about it. They're not going to tell people. Yeah, I was victimized by pimps and that when I was a kid. Like, people don't want to talk about that. It is super stressful. Did you ever watch any of Trump's depositions? That's such a great question, DYI Drea. And yes, I have, and they're kind of hilarious. And I'll put a couple of clips in the description in case anybody wants to check out a Trump deposition. Like the one where he starts insulting the lawyer and telling her that she's not his type, that basically he wouldn't assault the lawyer because not his type. The lawyer's like, oh, yeah, I'm so insulted. Too freaking funny. That was in the case with E. Jean Carroll. So it was E. Jean Carroll's attorney. So it probably was, what is her name? Like Robbie. I think her first name is Roberta and she goes by Robbie, and she kicks some butt. And it's hilarious. I will definitely put a link in the description to that one. But yeah, so I'm thinking that you've probably seen them too, DIY Drea, and thank you so much for that comment. Or like, it might even be the same deposition when he said something like, there's so many crazy things he said. I can't decide which one to talk about. Like, he's said a lot of crazy things. And this wasn't a deposition, but when he said, I haven't had the honor of being invited to Epstein Island, that was a really good one. Another really good one is when he says, Robbie's asking him about grabbing him by the Kit Kat, and he says how, movie stars, if you're famous, you can get away with that. And famous people have been able to do that for millions of years or something. He literally says millions of years. And Robbie's like, so you're famous, so you're saying that you can get away with it because you're famous? And he says, yeah, how does he phrase it? He just kind of says, yeah, for better or for worse. Like, yeah, I guess that, whether that's not good or good. Do you remember how he phrases it? It's really freaking funny because he's just like digging himself deeper. He just entrenches himself. He trips himself up so much. The best thing that man could do would be to like put a sock in it, but he doesn't have that in his toolkit. And for that, we can thank him. Yes. And the complex post-traumatic stress disorder and being deposed together, my stomach just shakes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Raised from perdition. That's awful. I attended a trial for a boy assault. Judge asked me why I was there. So he gets sentenced and protect others. Judge gave him 26.5 years. His dad got 25 years for offing mom. Oh my goodness. That's nuts. Was that in Seattle, Granny Annie? Didn't you work in the courts in Seattle? I know your ex-partner did. Because yeah, I did. I worked in the King County Superior Court for a few years. That was not fun at all. But very educational, very, very educational. My parents were there. Brother snuggled with little sister. Ooh, 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 ooh. Raised, does complex PTSD make your concentration zilch? Yes, ma'am. Couldn't, Granny? Yes, it does. My keyboard is broken tonight, so I'm sorry if I don't make sense. Oh, you're fine. It is helpful when you make the corrections, but you're fine. Sometimes I can figure out the corrections, but other times I don't even realize that it's needing a correction. Raised, we figured it out. No worries on keyboard. Raised, okay. I tried psych meds to be able to concentrate. Guess I will stick to jigsaw puzzles and YouTube. I love the jigsaw puzzles, and yeah, the Tube of You. I mean, I think that that's what draws a lot of us to true crime, is the solving of the puzzle, right? That was Pierce County, 2017. My retired bailiff buddy was there. Man, and Pierce County is one of those places like Middleton, Ohio, where things happen in Pierce County that don't necessarily happen in other counties. For people that aren't familiar, Pierce County is where Tacoma is in Washington State. And Tacoma is a fairly big city, not nearly as big as Seattle, but a sizable city, about half an hour south of Seattle. And it was created to be the red light district back in the day when Seattle was a new city, and they were trying to like banish all of the crime from the city. They were like, well, we'll just make this other city where all the crime can happen. So that's the history of Tacoma, which is why it is still very, very crime ridden. Some of the craziest crimes, like this one movie that I like to recommend a lot, Granny Annie. Have you seen I Love You to Death? The movie with Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix, Kevin Kline, Tracy Ullman, Joanne Plowright, Phoebe Cates, Victoria Jackson, William Hurt. Have I named enough amazing people? It's a comedy, and it's hilarious, and it's a true story, and it happened in Tacoma. I Love You to Death. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's really good. It'll make you laugh, I promise. I had wrote to prosecutor with a couple of tips about the abuser. They had to tell judge. Glad judge did victims right that case. Yeah. It's so crazy how so much justice hinges on that decision of one person, usually a judge, sometimes a juror, and it can go either way. And it's so fortunate when it goes the way of justice. It's so unfortunate when it goes the other way. Like with that freaking sweetheart deal that I like to call the crime of the century with Alex Acosta and Little E. That could have gone the other direction entirely. But there were so many people paid off with that. So many people paid off, and so many people protected. I mean, this is so much bigger than Trump and Epstein, when I call it the Trumpstein files. And yeah, somebody put up a post a couple of days ago, and I had thought of this a few days prior. They put up a post of photographs of the files that were kept at the Mar-a-Lago bathroom. You know, the bathroom was filled. Some of the hallways were filled, boxes and boxes of files. And, you know, high security clearance was needed for these files. And they're just hanging out in the bathroom, right? And in the post with the photographs, and I'll see if I can put a link to it in the description. I can't even remember the name of the channel at the moment. It's not one I watch that often, but it is a good one. her post was to say that she never thought about the fact that those files could be the Trumpstein files, which is exactly what I had just thought a few days prior. And it blew me away that I never thought about it before. Like I never put the two and the two together. And that's what her post was about. Like, she's like, I'm so embarrassed that I never thought of this until now. But yeah, you know, I mean, again, we're all so busy trying to live our lives that we can't think about all the ridiculous stuff that all these gaslighters do, these morons. And, you know, one thought, I think I commented in her post, like, you would think that somebody might have destroyed the files since they're in them and they want to keep themselves safe. But at the same time, having those files in his possession was probably like having billions of dollars in his possession. Then he could use them to blackmail everybody. And I'm convinced that he still is, that that's a lot of what his leadership is all about. You know, I'm 1,000% convinced that Daddy Vladdy's in those files, that BB's in those files. I mean, there's too many people that are in those files that would pay anything to keep them under wrap. It's a dangerous game. And then where Jizz falls into the picture, out of control, cray cray. I mean, she's got the dirt on everybody. That was Pierce County. I read that one, and I can't even watch TV or movies unless at theater my mind drifts off to Idaho 4 or something else. That's funny. Oh, let's see. This thing is so goofy. And yeah, the Idaho 4 case is just a shitstorm, isn't it? Yes, judges can screw it all up or make America great. Right. Judges and panels. You know, a lot of times if something is getting appealed, there'll be like 4 or 5 panelists that have to give it the green light or don't give it the green light. So like if there's 5 panelists that something needs to get through and you have to have 3 yay and, you know, only 2 or less say nay. But a lot of times in those situations, it's really hard to even get one person. Appeals don't go very well. So, you know, most appeals are denied. Most appeals don't even get heard. So like Ghislaine Maxwell had requested an appeal recently with the Supreme Court. I think it was just like a week ago or something, and it got denied with 900 others on that same day. Like none of them got granted. So that was nice that she was thrown in the bucket with the rest, which is where she should be, in my opinion. Lori Vallow, Daybell judges, great. Young Thug Rico judges, yes. Judges were obscenely incompetent. 3 judges. Well, and a lot of times they're paid off, but yeah, a lot of times they're incompetent. A lot of times they're alcoholics. Like they're just like anybody else. I mean, you have to be well educated to become a judge. Obviously, you have to have a law degree. You have to have connections. It's kind of political. Those positions are very well paid and they're extremely demanding. I mean, I would say that I would not say that judges are overpaid. I mean, they all are 6 figures and it's a very hard job. And that's for the ones that are doing it right. You know, for the ones that are taking bribes on the side, like the 6 figures, not enough. Or like the judge in the case in Kentucky, Sheriff Steins, Mickey Steins, that shot, what was the judge's name? Was it Kevin? Help me out here if you remember. I think his name was Kevin. Judge shot in Kentucky. Let's see. Sheriff Mickey Steins shot judge in Kentucky. Mullins, Kevin Mullins, that's his name. Yeah, I mean, again, these people that are abusers, allegedly, Kevin Mullins was like so many of these other people in positions of power that were abusing the women that were in trouble with the law, and that is not isolated to that one county, that's a huge problem, especially in the Appalachians, where there's a lot of addiction, a lot of poverty. And once a woman is caught up in that cycle of drug addiction and arrests, and then they don't have the money to pay for the court costs, it's just a nightmare. So at least there's been some light shed in that. That's another case that I have not kept up with because I've been so focused on the burning down of our democracy and the Trumpstein files. And, and then you throw Charlie Kirk in there that is right part of the mix of the Trumpstein files and the burning down of democracy, and such a distraction at the same time part of the story. So, and for that we can thank them. I mean, they make so many stupid mistakes. It's very sad that he was thrown to the wolves like that. But that's the thing with these types of MFs, is they'll hang anybody out to dry, even their own family members. They don't care about nobody but number one. And the only frenemies that they pretend to care about are the people that, it's like trying to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. They stick together because they all have dirt on each other. It's not because they're friends. I mean, Trumpstein, those two weren't friends. I mean, they were frenemies. And then I wanted to talk about that too, because again, with the fuzzy math and like how old was Virginia when she started at Mar-a-Lago, and then was transitioned from Eppinger to the resort, and then to working for Jeffrey, which so many people that worked at the resort got stolen and then were working for Jeffrey. But we all know that Jeffrey didn't have a freaking spa. He didn't have a resort. I mean, he had an island, but what in the F did anyone think that they were getting stolen for? So Tenacious D was well aware that little E was stealing his people. There was something that I wanted to read to you about that, but let me catch up with all your comments and then I'll read it. I've got it in my phone here. And yeah, I think a lot more money was probably paid for Virginia to her father, and between the Trumpstein fire people. I mean, it's a RICO thing. So thank you for your comment, Raised from Perdition. Like, RICO law needs to come into play here. This is total gangster activity, man. Absolutely. We'll watch I Love You to Death. You'll love it. You'll love it. It is brilliant. Oh my goodness. River Phoenix, Tracy Ullman. I mean, all of those people that I mentioned, they're all freaking brilliant. Kevin Kline, Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams, not Young Thug. Yeah, I figured that's what you meant. I got to appeal my lifetime spousal support canceled. I had a fool for a client, no cash for attorney, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Couldn't learn to write a brief. He abused me to disability. Maddening. I'm so sorry, Granny. And I'm reading that from Raised from Perdition, but I'm saying it too. Dang. I know, it's horrible how perpetrators prey on people that are vulnerable. Absolutely. So horrible. So what I'm going to read to you is, let me see if I can pull this up. I was really surprised to see that. One sec. To see that in Wikipedia, this is the link. Oh, this is so annoying. Stop it. The link that I put in there. The Wikipedia link. Wait until you hear the name of the link. This is the title of a Wikipedia link. Relationship of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And I wanted to read you at least part of it. Let me drink a little water real quick. Yeah, and man, I keep biting my tongue. It's so awful. It's kind of funny though, right? Bite your tongue. Here we go. Donald Trump, the 45th and 47th president of the U.S., developed a social and professional relationship with financier and Rex offender Jeffrey Epstein that began in the late 1980s and continued into the early 2000s. So that right there covers roughly 15 years. But what I was going to say about the fuzzy math is that I think they were actually friends for 30 years. I think that the relationship started at the latest 1987 and that it continued around 30 years. So let's say 2017, roughly. And that when it's reported by the president that he knew him for 15 years, a typical addict only reports half of their consumption. So if you're dealing with somebody who's addicted to substances or alcohol and you ask them how much they're consuming, it's understood in the field of recovery, it's understood that people underreport by about half. And so I thought, how interesting that it seems like El Presidente underreports by about half of how long he knew Jeffrey Epstein. And when you talk about 15 years of knowing a freaking Rex offender, not just a Rex offender, but the worst Rex offender of all time that we know of, 15 years is a very long time. It's almost arbitrary. Like it's like cutting it in half doesn't really do anything. You could cut it in half again. Still 7.5 years you were friends with this creep. Takes one to know one, right? I mean, seriously. So trying to play it down. Oh, well, no, I didn't know for that long. It was only 15 years. That's a long freaking time. That's a long freaking time. Okay. During Tenacious D's prior careers as a businessman and media personality before entering politics in 2015, he and Little E visited each other's real estate properties regularly. And then it's got this statue there in Washington, D.C. that people built that they called Best Friends Forever, a 2025 statue created to protest DJT and JE's relationship and the closely associated misconduct allegations against El Presidente. Little T and Little E socialized frequently through the 1990s and early 2000s, including attending parties at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida and Little E's residence. Little E bought his property right down the street, like maybe 2 miles from Mar-a-Lago. And let me just throw in here a little Erica Kirk fact that she was a real estate agent for Cochran Realty, which is the same group that Little E bought and sold his properties through. So just a tangent there that's not really such a tangent. And that properties are one of the best ways to launder money. Real estate is top choice for laundering money. You buy your real estate with a suitcase full of cash, and then when you sell the property, the cash is clean. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Or so I've been told. I've never done it, obviously. Me and my suitcases are empty. Okay. Flight logs released during an associate's trial confirmed that DJT flew on Little E's private jet multiple times in the 90s. According to Little T first had Rex with Melania in his private jet. That would be Lolita Express. Little T and his representatives claim he had a falling out with Little E around 2004 and ceased contact. But that's not true. They had a falling out, but anyway, let's move on. They didn't cease contact. They wish. Okay. In 2007, after Little E was said to have sexually harassed a teenage daughter of another Mar-a-Lago member, Little T revoked his Mar-a-Lago membership, allegedly. Since Little E's 2009 arrest for Rex trafficking, transporting of minors, and his ceasing to live while in prison shortly thereafter, their former relationship has come under further scrutiny, particularly during and after DJT's elections as president in 16 and 24. Little T has denied any knowledge of Little E's criminal activities and distanced himself from the deceased financier in the years before Epstein's arrest and ceasing to be alive. Little T promoted unsubstantiated conspiracy theories about this circumstance and suggested Little E was red-rummed. Media attention and public pressure has mounted in 2025 as Donnie's administration has not released the files relating to Trumpstein, despite promising to do so during his 2024 presidential campaign. I wonder if Virginia was able to vote in this last election. I know she was a huge Trump supporter, but she was living in Australia. She had dual citizenship, so she probably could have voted if she wanted to, but I don't know if she did. But I know she was a huge Trump supporter because she thought that he was going to release the files. Let's see. And that's another reason why I wonder that she's not around anymore. Since he was changing his promise. Although Virginia Giuffre revealed that Little E and Jiz had recruited her from Mar-a-Lago into a Rex transporting ring, she did not accuse Little T himself of wrongdoing. In 2025, the now convicted Rex offender Jiz claimed she never witnessed Little T behave inappropriately. Although Jiz did not accuse Little T of abuse, although Virginia did not accuse Little T of abuse, her recruitment from his property and his past association with Little E have repeatedly brought his name into discussions. While no criminal wrongdoing has ever been established against Little T in connection with Little E's crimes, recent document releases have fueled renewed questions about his conduct. A sexually suggestive birthday note allegedly written by Little T to Little E in 2003 included a crude drawing. Trump has denied the legitimacy of it. Relationships of J.E. and D.T. Bromance, exactly. Yeah, let me highlight that one. I know. I think that they're in love. I think that DJT is in love with his daddy Vladdy too. We know he's in love with not Kim Jong-un, but the other one, the one from, or is it? Yeah, Kim Jong-un, the one from North Korea. Absolutely in love with. Come on, just do the thing. Why do you gotta be so difficult? It's nuts. But G-Max and her associates weren't banned from Mar-a-Lago. Well, and neither was Little E. He was still invited to parties and stuff there. And he says that he canceled his membership because he got sick of the DJT. So, it's kind of like a breakup, or when somebody quits a job or gets fired. Got fired. What's the difference? The only difference is, were you invited to the party or not? They had a falling out. They were very competitive with each other. They both thought that they were the bee's knees, the cat's pajamas. They're both so gross. Jeffrey, objectively, if he was a nice person, I think was very good looking. I think that's how he got away with so much. I think that's how Jiz got away with so much too. Imagine if they looked like Harvey Weinstein. I don't know. I don't think it would have gone on as long as it did. Although Harvey Weinstein looks like Harvey Weinstein, and he got away with it for a long time too. Okay, since the 70s, at least 28 women have accused DJT of sexual misconduct for acts that have included rape, kissing and groping without consent, looking under women's skirts, walking in on naked teenage pageant contestants. DJT has denied all the allegations, which is funny since he also bragged about walking in on naked teenage pageant contestants. He has a history of insulting and belittling women when speaking to the media and on social media. He has made lewd comments about women, disparaged their physical appearance, and referred them to using derogatory epithets. Jeffrey cultivated an elite social circle and procured many women and children whom he and his associates abused. In addition to his own abuse of the victims, Little E directed other persons to abuse the girls. Little E used paid employees to find and bring minors to him. Little E worked in concert with others to obtain minors, not only for his own gratification, but also for the gratification of others. His close associate, Jiz, was later implicated as procuring or recruiting underage girls, in addition to being, for an extended period, Little E's chief girlfriend. So this is from the 80s until 92. DJT said that his friendship with Little E started in the late 80s. The two men were neighbors and would visit each other's properties. So they were neighbors in New York, and they were neighbors in Miami too. Or not Miami, north of Miami. Mar-a-Lago is West Palm Beach. There we go. The two men were neighbors and would visit each other's properties. On the July 16th, 2025 episode of Aaron Burnett Out Front, Jack O'Donnell, who served as COO of Trump Plaza and Casino from 87 to 90. Ew, that's interesting because that's during the time of that helicopter crash in 89, where the three top executives lost their lives. But that was Trump Taj Mahal. I don't know if it's the same. He probably knew them. If even if they worked in different cities, like the Taj Mahal would have been in Atlantic City, and then Trump Plaza would be New York, and then the casino would probably be the one in Vegas. But anyway, here we go. He claimed in an interview with reporter Aaron Burnett that, among other things, quote, "In my mind, Little E was his best friend, throughout the time I was there for 4 years. They would often visit the casino together," with O'Donnell also recounting one occasion where he reprimanded both T and E when they brought in some girls who were under the New Jersey legal gambling age of 21. O'Donnell previously wrote about this incident in his 91 book, Trumped, though Little E's name would be omitted by the book's publisher. I mean, people were afraid of these two. Mobster style. In 90, Little E bought a mansion 2 miles north of Mar-a-Lago. People were afraid of them, and they paid people off, and they had dirt on people. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of dirt, right? Not many people are squeaky clean like me. I'm pretty clean. I mean, I've done some stupid stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm very candid about my rug addiction when I was very young, when I went through rehab at 22. But some people laugh at me because my rug of choice was the green stuff, and it's like, to me, it's not a laughing matter. And if it was as easy to come by as it is now, I would have never been able to get away from the stuff. So I thank my lucky stars. Sobriety is the best gift you can give yourself. But even being sober, you can still do stupid things, right? Like I used to like to say as a therapist, people can mess up their lives good and plenty without drugs and alcohol, right? Easy peasy. Okay, in 90, little E bought a mansion 2 miles north of Mar-a-Lago, which T had purchased 5 years earlier in 85. In 92, T invited NBC to film a party he threw for himself and little E at Mar-a-Lago, where they joined various NFL cheerleaders. In the NBC video, T was filmed at a Mar-a-Lago party, whispering in little E's ear, prompting little E to start laughing. NBC News revealed footage of the party in July 2019, showing T and E and the cheerleaders. At one point during the video, little T appears to tell little E, look at her back there, she's hot. Yeah, if you're like reading his lips, it certainly seems like that's what they said. So, one sec. Also in 92, Florida businessman George Horaney said that he brought 28 people he described as girls to the property at T's request in order to host a private, quote, calendar girl event exclusively for T and E. In 97, Jill Harth dropped a sexual misconduct lawsuit against little T from the calendar girl competition, where she alleged little T took her into a bedroom and forcibly kissed, fondled, and restrained her from leaving. In 93, model Stacey Williams said that upon arriving at the Trump Tower in 93, Trump and little E touched her while trading smiles. That was a weird story. You guys probably remember that. I mean, I believe her. It's a weird story in that they were acting goofy AF, the dudes. So immature. They're so freaking juvie, man. They're so freaking juvie. Like 12-year-old boys. Okay, T and E touched her while trading smiles. She told The Guardian in 2024 that it became very clear that he and little T were really, really good friends and spent a lot of time together. She described the incident as a twisted game between T and E. E attended T's wedding to Marla Maples. It's funny, Marla Maples and Mar-a-Lago. I never thought about how similar those are. Especially because he bought Mar-a-Lago in around 85. I don't know how long he had an affair with Marla Maples, but I think it was a long time. By the time his divorce was getting finalized in like 90 or 91, they'd been together for years, him and Marla. So I think that Mar-a-Lago was already named that by the woman who built it, that he bought it from. And she was from a very wealthy family, like the Folgers family or something like that. Anyway, let's move on. The wedding to Marla Maples in the Plaza Hotel. Later that year, little E went to a Harley Davidson cafe with T and his children, which is funny because that's another thing that little T would try to say, is that he would never have his kids around. little E, which it's like, well, why would you say that if you didn't know he was a dirtbag? But then he did have his children around him. So talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's just a lying liar. I mean, there are photographs of both interactions. 94 to 2000, little T flew in little E's private plane 7 times between 93 and 97, according to flight logs released in 2021. According to little E, little T first had Rex with Melania Naus in his private jet. Maria Farmer, the first person to report little E and Jiz to law enforcement, encountered little T late at night at little E's Manhattan office in 1995. Farmer was then in her mid-20s, and she was an art student. She was a graduate art student living in New York on her own from Kentucky. I want to say she got her undergrad in California, that she like went to UC Santa Cruz or something. Very independent, very talented. So she was working for little E as like his receptionist. I think she signed girls in as they came in to the townhome. And then they assaulted her in Ohio. Like they told her that they were hiring her at Les Wex's property over there on the east side of Columbus, New Albany, that they were hiring her to do commissioned artwork. And the artwork that she did while she was there before the assault, because I think once they assaulted her, I think it was over. And she went to the police and blah, blah, blah. And then nothing really ever happened still to this day. But some of the artwork that she did was in that movie As Good as It Gets. So I haven't rewatched that movie to check out the artwork, because she has a very distinct style. I think it'd be easy to tell what's hers. But you could also probably Google like Maria Farmer's artwork from As Good as It Gets. Anyway, let me keep reading here. Because, yeah, Jack Nicholson is in that movie. And Kirby Summers has a lot to say about him, but we'll keep reading. We'll stay focused. And thanks for being here, you guys. You're the best. And, yeah, we'll wrap up in a few minutes, too. It's almost 90 minutes that we've been on. Let's see. The first person to report them to law enforcement, she encountered little T late at night at little E's Manhattan office in 95. She was in her mid-20s. She described little T as leering at her in a way that felt threatening until little E entered the room and warned him off, saying, no, she's not here for you. T and E then left the room, and Farmer overheard T say that he had assumed Farmer was a teenager. In 97, little T inscribed a copy of his book, Trump, The Art of the Comeback, to little E, writing, "You are the greatest." Isn't that cute? Gross. So the importance of that paragraph being right after the previous one is that allegedly, according to Maria Farmer, little T was there to get it on with a teenager that had been procured for him by his good friend, and that this was a routine thing that they did together. And then 2 years later, he's inscribing a book saying you're the greatest. So, but he didn't know that little E did any of this perverted crap with youngsters, right? Right. E and T were photographed together at Mar-a-Lago and at a Victoria's Secret Angels event in New York in 97. And there is video of little E and T chatting at a Victoria's Secret fashion show in New York in 1999. In 2000, T and Melania were pictured alongside little E and Maxwell. Little T's name was listed in little E's partially redacted Black Book of Contacts. His name also appears in a number of court documents related to little E that were released in 2024. And these files that they're trying to not release by shutting down the government are imminent, you guys. Imminent. That they will maybe be released. I don't know. I mean, look what happened to the birthday book when they put it in the cloud. Little T was not accused of any crime in any of the documents. His name disappeared and stuff. Okay. Recruitment of Virginia. As a teenager, she worked as a locker room attendant in the Spot at Mar-a-Lago. There she met Maxwell, who recruited her as Little E's masseuse. Little T told reporters this past July 28th of 2025, quote, "For years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, don't ever do that again." So he'd done it before. "He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. And he did it again, and I threw him out of the place. Persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it." The next day, asked by reporters whether any of those workers were young women and whether Virginia was included, Little T replied affirmatively. "Everyone knows the people that were taken, and taking people that work for me is bad. Yes, they were young women. Workers were taken out of the Mar-a-Lago spa, hired by him. I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people." And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, "Out of here." Yeah, he stole her, Gouffre. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. So was he upset because he didn't get paid for her? Question. Honest question. Despite Donnie's 2025 recollection that he expelled Epstein from the club not too long after Little E hired Gouffre in 2000, Little E remained a member of Mar-a-Lago until 2007. That's not consistent. Gouffre's family reacted with shock and said Trump's comments raised questions about what he knew and when, and reiterated that anyone in Little E's orbit, including Donnie, should be investigated. Early 2000s. In 2002, speaking to New York Magazine, Little T said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy." He also stated, "He's a lot of fun to be with. And it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side." According to the Wall Street Journal, in 2003, Little T sent a birthday letter to Little E that included a drawing of a naked woman. The letter was collected by Little E's accomplice, Jiz, for the leather-bound photo album sometime before 2006, and was among the documents examined by the Justice Department, which investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago. The letter, which bore Little T's signature, featured several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of the naked woman, apparently hand-drawn in a heavy marker. You know, black Sharpie. The Wall Street Journal described Little T's squiggly signature below the woman's waist as mimicking pubic hair. Yeah, trigger warning. According to the Journal, the letter contained an imagined dialogue in which Trump tells Little E, and I'm going to read it, even though I know we've all heard it numerous times, tells Little E that, quote, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." And Little E replies, "Yes, we do, come to think of it." The dialogue concludes with Trump saying, quote, "A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." Trump immediately denied having written the letter and sued the Journal for defamation. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a letter matching this description and apparently signed by Little T on September 8th, 2025. The entire birthday book was made public the following day. They uploaded it to the cloud. I think that's just a good way to keep everybody safe, right? I mean, as safe as anybody can be in a situation like this, if you're anywhere near the situation, you got a target on your back. You don't want to know nothing. In 2004, T&E competed to buy a mansion at its foreclosure auction. Little T outbid Little E, renovating the house and selling it 4 years later at a profit. Yeah, I think he doubled the price. Some media reports have described the outbidding as the end of their relationship, with phone records indicating that the two ceased communicating after the fact. So how often did they communicate, right? As of Little E's 2019 arrest, which, wait, who was in charge of our country at that point in time? Little T had not confirmed that the bidding caused the end of his friendship with Little E. Little E was investigated by Palm Beach police in April 2005 for soliciting an underage girl for the wrong kinds of purposes, leading to a June 2006 indictment by grand jury of one count of solicitation of a prostitute. The FBI began investigating in July 2006, and the U.S. Attorney's Office indicted him in June 2007. So now I'm thinking about, in 2007 was when Erica Kirk won Miss Arizona Teen, and meaning that she would have then gone on to compete in the Miss USA Teen that was owned by the Trumpster fire. And that was only 2 years before 2009 was when Erica was the fourth runner-up and Lindsay Halligan was the third runner-up for Miss Colorado, that photograph that I used for my thumbnail that's got Lindsay Halligan on the far left in her bikini, and then Erica Kirk France at the time. I can't say her last name. It's all weird with the letters at the end. She's on the far right in a blue dress. And just interesting, you know, when you got to like put these timelines together, like what was going on with her over there in Colorado and Arizona. Well, all this is going on in Florida and New York. And Erica France worked in New York as a model and like a talent scout, a modeling and contestant director or something like that. And then she also had that thing in Romania that definitely wasn't trafficking, right? Mm-hmm. It says so on the internet. It says it's been debunked that she didn't do anything bad. So if it says so on the internet, then we know it's true, right? Okay. Let me try to finish this up. The FBI began investigating in July 2006. The U.S. Attorney's Office indicted him 2007, pled guilty in June 2008. The plea deal was approved by U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Grossest POS on earth, as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely disgusting. An appointee of President George W. Bush, Acosta would go on to be appointed as Labor Secretary by Trump nearly a decade later. So when he was appointed by Trump as the Labor Secretary in 2018, he was one of the hardest people to get through, like probably harder than Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House, and probably harder than Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War. So getting Alex Acosta approved might have been close to the same level as Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz probably would have been approved if he hadn't withdrawn. But, you know, some of these people don't have the common decency to just freaking like cut their losses and, you know, get while the getting's good and walk before you're made to run kind of thing. But then Alexander Acosta was made to run a year later after he was finally sworn in. The second little E was arrested, Alexander was toast. Okay. 2007 ban from Mar-a-Lago. In 2007, after little E was said to have harassed a teenage daughter of another Mar-a-Lago member, little T revoked his membership. The girl had been working as a masseuse. I hate that word, because that to me just implies a happy ending. Like massage therapist, people are legit massage therapists that would never consider doing happy endings. It's really demeaning to me when massage therapists are called masseuses. But this is really interesting too. The girl had been working as a masseuse at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, so they did massages there too with unlicensed massage therapists that were just masseuses that were teenagers? Teenage masseuses at Mar-a-Lago. Interesting. In the 2016 book, Filthy Rich detailed that the teen had told her father while relaxing at Mar-a-Lago she'd been approached and invited out to Epstein's house. The girl said she had gone and that little E had tried to get her to undress. The girl's father had gone directly to little T, who in no uncertain terms told little E that he was barred from Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago's registry shows little E was a member until October 2007. According to the 2020 book, The Grifters Club, the New York Times reports that little T gave the same explanation to his associates, and that in 2009, Brad Edwards, who's my hero, and I think was Virginia's hero, Brad Edwards, an attorney for a number of little E's victims, was told something similar by little T. When he first heard the rumor, House Speaker Mike Johnson told CNN on September 4th of 2025, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. Do you remember that last month? On September 7th, Johnson retracted this claim. That was crazy. Oh, what does it say? If the internet says so, it's guaranteed back by gold notes. Well, and they think that, just like with the propaganda on television, it's like they think that if they can control Grok and X and TikTok and all this stuff, that they can control the people and gaslight us all. And it unfortunately does work to a certain extent. But a lot of people know better than to believe anything you read or anything you see on TV. You got to use your common sense. And, the best reliable information is going to be from people that were directly involved, that experienced it themselves. After little E's 2008 conviction, in 2015, little T advisor Roger Stone, oh man, one of the grossest people alive, published The Clintons' War on Women, in which he quoted a Mar-a-Lago member who remembered little T having said that little E had beautiful young girls in his Palm Beach swimming pool. Little T allegedly said, how nice, this is Trump saying this, how nice, I thought, that he let the neighborhood kids use his pool. In April 2016, an anonymous woman using the pseudonym Katie Johnson, perk up your ears, you guys, you know who that is. Katie Johnson filed a lawsuit in California accusing both T and E of forcibly raping her when she was 13 at underage Rex parties at little E's Manhattan residence in 94. The case was dismissed the following month. A second version of the lawsuit was filed in New York in June by the same woman as Jane Doe, claiming to have been raped and assaulted by the pair at before 1994 parties when she was 13. The lawsuit was refiled in September, and on November 2nd, remember, this was the week before the election. On November 2nd, Doe was rescheduled to appear at a press conference at the office of Lisa Bloom before abruptly canceling. Bloom said Jane Doe had received multiple threats. The lawsuit was withdrawn 2 days later, and I don't think anybody's heard anything since. In a tape recorded in 2017 and published in 2024 by Little T biographer Michael Wolff, who was doing research on his 2018 book, Fire and Fury, Little E said he had been Little T's closest friend for 10 years. He also criticized the first T administration and said that T was a horrible human being. Little E said that Little T was a horrible human being who would do, quote, nasty things to his best friends' wives, anyone who he first tries to gain their trust and uses it to do bad things to them. In 2019, after Little E was arrested under the transporting charges, let's see, Little T knew that Little E was talking trash on him, so throw him under the bus. And all hell was breaking loose because the victims had filed a lawsuit in Florida against the Florida courts and Alex Acosta for the sweetheart deal, or the crime of the century, as I like to call it. So that was an active lawsuit. I think that started sometime in the 20-teens and it was still active. I think it started on or around 2011 and was still going to 2019. I think it's still going. I don't know. I haven't gotten to the end of the book yet. Let me see. They've been trying to file a lawsuit saying that it was illegal that they made that sweetheart deal with Little E without consulting any of the victims, because there's laws that victims need to get informed at the very least, if not give approval, but they definitely need to be informed before it happens. Anyway, let me keep reading here. So in 2019, after he was arrested for the transporting, Little T said he had not been in contact with him for 15 years. In 2020, on the topic of Jiz's criminal prosecution, Little T said that I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. Oh, that just took on a new meaning to me, because she probably knew that he had been looking for something bad to happen to Little E, and that's why Little E was arrested when he was president. I don't know. OMG. Little T later doubled down on his wish to Maxwell, stating that I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. According to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal in 2023, Little E attempted to meet Little T associates Thomas Barak and Peter Thiel in 2016. In September 2025, the House Oversight Committee released a 2003 birthday book created by Jiz for E's 50th birthday, titled The First 50 Years. The album included a note allegedly signed by Little T, featuring a drawing and a handwritten message, or typewritten message, sorry. Little T denied writing or signing the note, and his legal team has disputed its authenticity. Coverage of the release described the disputed note as adding renewed public and media attention to Trump's past association with Little E. So I think I'm going to stop there. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe I should read a little bit more. Yeah, I'll read a little bit more. It seems like there's about 6 more paragraphs here. Let me drink a little water. My voice is getting tired. Love Brad Edwards. I know if you've seen him speak, he's a sweetheart. Common sense isn't common, and he says, yes. Let's see if I can highlight anything. Is it going to let me? No, it says rejection for highlighting anything. There we go. All right. During JiZ's 2021 trial, a woman who said that she was groomed as a minor by JiZ testified that little E had introduced her to little T at the age of 14. She did not accuse little T of any illegal behavior or explain why she was introduced to him. Musk tweeted in June 2025 that little T is in the e-files. That is the reason they have not been made public. He deleted the post shortly afterwards, stating that it went too far. Little T's relationship with little E received significant media attention in 2025 due to the unwillingness of the Trump administration to release files relating to little E, despite earlier promises to do so during the 2024 campaign. Little T received significant amounts of blowback from the media, the public, and even many of his supporters for this decision, and Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. While Trump has attempted to distance himself from little E and downplay their association, some of the MAGA movement's most fervent supporters grew increasingly vocal in demanding the release of little E related files, leading to the visible fractures within his support base. After U.S. AG Pamela Bondi and other officials had for months teased the imminent release of the information, stated in a memo released in July of 2025 that there was no such evidence that little E had such a list or that he had blackmailed prominent individuals. The memo also confirmed that little E had committed self-unaliving while in custody. Oh, yeah. Remember that video of Dan Bongino and Kash Patel being interviewed by Maria Bartolini on a Sunday? And they're both like, he definitely did it to himself. Yeah. That was funny. Funny, not funny. Okay. Let's see if I can finish this up. The announcement caused an uproar among some of little T's most fervent supporters who had bought into the conspiracy theory that little E was at the center of a cabal of powerful men and celebrities, largely Democrats, and that the government had covered it up. Yeah, I think a lot of that is the truth right there. In social media posts, little T said the continuing demands for release of the files were a hoax perpetrated by the Democrats and that his supporters pressing for release were stupid and foolish and not supporters anymore. In 2024, little E's brother Mark said that he did not know why E and T's friendship ended. He stated that little E had said in a tape that he stopped hanging out with DJT when he realized that little T was a crook. In July 2025, Mark Epstein made further statements emphasizing their closeness, refuting little T's assertions that he, quote, was not a fan, and Stephen Jung's statement that the president was never in Epstein's office. That is such a lie. In relation to the accusation of one of little E's victims who mentioned having had a disturbing encounter with little T in Jeffrey's office in 1995, the Maria Farmer one, Mark also declared he didn't know anything about his brother's crimes until 2006. Deputy AG Todd Blanche met with JiZ on July 24th and 25th at the USA Attorney's Office in Tallahassee. JiZ told Blanche, according to the transcript released a month later, that T and E were not close friends, contradicting what E had previously stated that he was Trump's closest friend. and that she was sure that Bill Clinton absolutely never went to Little E's Island, Little St. James, given that I don't believe he had an independent friendship, if you will, with Little E. She wasn't supposed to defend Clinton, damn it. On September 23rd, 2025, a statue of T and E titled Best Friends Forever, also known as Why Can't We Be Friends, was briefly installed at the National Mall in downtown Washington, D.C., created by an anonymous art group aliased The Secret Handshake. The sculpture was created in protest of the relationship of T and E and the closely associated misconduct allegations against Little T. The sculpture had permits to stay on display until September 28th, but was dismantled by the U.S. Park Police within 24 hours of installation. On October 2nd, it was reported that the statue had been temporarily reinstalled on the National Mall. Okay. I'm going to set this down and read a couple of your comments and try to make my closing argument. What did I want to say about Erica and Lindsay? So, whoa, what's weird is gravity. I'm telling you, gravity sucks. Stop it, gravity. Don't mess with me. What are you doing? I guess I can't put my water there. What's weird to me, like when things are weird, like, yeah, things happen and, you know, people might have been in a pageant together and won third and fourth runner-up and been on a stage together back in 2009, and then 16 years later both find themselves at the center of a lot of alleged crimes with the owner of the United States beauty pageant. But what makes it even more suspicious to me, other than its existence, is when the existence is never mentioned. So if somebody in the Trump administration would just say something like, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That they were both on stage together and they both won third and fourth runner-up for Miss Colorado. That's bothering me there. Actually, it's kind of pretty, that yellow in the corner there. But move it. Brain, get back on track so you can close up this video. Thanks for being here again. So yeah, the fact that nobody says anything about it and tries to pretend that it didn't happen, and then everything is scrubbed off the internet. So like, it's hard to find anything about Lindsay Halligan and her pageant past, and it's nearly impossible to find out anything about Erica prior to her win of Miss Arizona in 2012. She won the 2012 title, but she won it at the end of 2011. And so her and Lindsay Halligan, I want to say they won the 2011 title, maybe at the end of 2010, I think. Again, it's hard to say since all the information is scrubbed, but you can find it. You can find some of that. You just have to like be persistent. And then the whole thing with Erica winning the Miss Teen in 2007, Miss Arizona Miss Teen. So everything about Erica's past prior to 2012, it seems, has been scrubbed off the internet. And that by itself is suspicious, in my opinion. When things are scrubbed, there's a reason that they're scrubbed. Things are being hidden. So on that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and say good night. I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours. Thank you so much for being here with me. Love and light. Have a really good night. Get some good rest. Drink your water. Eat your protein and your veggies. And hopefully I will see you mañana. Thanks again and love ya.